This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered medical or health advice. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice, nor have the statements been evaluated by the US FDA or similar international bodies. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of information shared during this podcast. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host. Greetings, health and human enthusiasts, and welcome to the Regaining Health and Humanity podcast. I'm your trusted guide, Dr. Scott Johnson, and I'm both humbled and thrilled that you've chosen to join me on this fearless pursuit of knowledge and inspiration. My mission is to elevate your well-being naturally, arming you with evidence-based insights, revolutionary breakthroughs, and impactful health tactics. But that's not all. Together, we'll dive deep into the mysterious realms of human existence, unraveling the secrets of what makes us truly thrive. This podcast isn't just about information. It's a catalyst for change. Join me in confidently exploring potent natural solutions, cutting-edge health strategies, and igniting courageous conversations that cultivate meaningful connections and foster empathy for humankind. I'm here to empower you to unleash your extraordinary potential and lead a life jam-packed with boundless health and happiness. So get ready. Your extraordinary journey to boundless health and happiness starts now. Hello, listeners, and welcome to the Regaining Health and Humanity podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Johnson, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. Something that I feel many people overlook that is vital to health is detoxification. Your body has a variety of elimination channels to detoxify, but in the modern day, it frequently needs some assistance in these functions. That's why I've invited Dr. Josh Helman to explain the importance of detoxification and how to do it naturally. Dr. Josh Helman is a Harvard-trained physician licensed in 14 states. He holds 2 degrees in biochemistry, a bachelor's degree from Harvard, and a master's degree from the University of Cambridge. His medical degree is from Harvard Medical School and MIT. He is board certified by the American Board of Emergency Medicine and also the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine. He is the former medical director of the Hippocrates Health Institute and has worked at the True North Health Center with a focus on fasting. Dr. Helman has dedicated 6 years to reversing and preventing Alzheimer's disease in patients. His areas of interest span longevity, regeneration, vitality, toxins, mold, Lyme disease, energy medicine, and breath work. With a passion for applying biochemical knowledge to real-world challenges, he embraces a holistic approach that emphasizes the importance of diet and lifestyle for optimal health. Dr. Helman is inspired by people's ability to change their bad habits and adopt a better lifestyle to prevent, improve, and reverse chronic diseases. Welcome, Dr. Helman.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks for that introduction. Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, I'm glad that your bio says that you're interested in toxins, since that's the topic of tonight's episode.
Perfect.
So let's dive right into this. I think first, I'd like the audience to learn from you, what are the primary organs involved in the body's detoxification process and the elimination channels the body uses to eliminate toxins?
Yeah, so this is, basic physiology, biochemistry, organs, etc. It's the liver is the master detoxifier organ, and then under that, I would say the kidneys, especially for water soluble toxins, and of course the skin. We don't want to forget the skin is a great organ for sweating and removing toxins that way. But the truth is that detoxification also has to happen in every cell and every organ, and that's normally done through the mitochondria, within the cell. So yeah, so there's the macro and there's the microscopic, and it's a symphony, and toxins travel through the bloodstream, but they also travel through the lymphatic system. And this is constantly going on. If our bodies couldn't remove toxins, we wouldn't survive for very long.
Yeah, totally true. And I'm glad that you mentioned skin because I think a lot of people don't think of the skin as an elimination organ, but that is one of the elimination pathways or the detoxification organs. And I also am grateful that you've mentioned the cellular detoxification that occurs because a lot of people don't think about that micro detoxification that occurs with autophagy and mitophagy that are involved in cleaning up this cellular waste and debris and the metabolites of cellular metabolism.
Yeah, and that's why there's certain toxins that are so damaging is that they actually will go, these toxins will go after the mitochondria, the
Mm-hmm.
specific part of the cell that's responsible for removing them. It's almost like a
Yeah.
Trojan horse. Once they get in, they're not leaving.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's why it's so important for us to focus on that aspect of our detoxification, the cellular detoxification. You mentioned the liver as the primary detoxification organ. Can you talk a little bit more about how it serves as the main detoxification organ, and what are some of the signs that maybe that is getting overloaded with toxins?
Sure. So the way the liver works is, if you look at it kind of from a macro standpoint, it's basically hooked up to the GI tract into your gastrointestinal system.
Mm-hmm.
It's anatomically it's right there, and and basically it's a way to once the liver identifies specific toxins, it's it's got a conveyor belt. It has like a whole. It's almost like the postal service where you when you write a letter, the address. It's got its own. It can basically package toxins to the right area. Like the
Mm-hmm.
you know certain of the toxins are going to go into the GI tract down through the stool. Some of them are through that are water soluble are going to go through the liver, and then some of them are going to go through the skin. And
Yeah.
and it's basically, I mean, of course, the brain is the master of how things work, but the liver, when it comes to detoxification, I would say I would put it first. And you were asking, so how would you know if you have liver problems? Well, I can tell you the severe liver problems, you can't miss it. If you see
Yeah.
a patient who's yellow, which we call jaundice, that
Mm-hmm.
basically means that their liver's not working because the the pigments, the yellow pigments, are backing up, not just in the liver, but throughout the whole body, and you can see it in the skin and everywhere. But you can have more subtle changes, not visible as yellowing of the skin or the eyes. You can also get what were called liver function tests, things like the
Mm-hmm.
AST and ALT, and the transaminases. They'll be a little bit elevated, and that may be the first clue that things aren't what they say, or the way they should be. And I would also hasten to add that when you're looking at lab tests, you don't necessarily want to be within the normal range, because the normal range is 2 standard deviations. And you know what I find concerning is that the average American, which is what you're being compared to with these lab tests, may not be very healthy. It may have lots of toxins. So just because you're within 95% of the average population doesn't mean you're ideal. So ideally, you're not going to have high liver tests, for example.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you talk about the ranges that are there because there is a difference between the normal ranges and optimum ranges. And so that's why I think it's important that somebody connect with an integrative physician like you that can help guide them and say, yeah, you're in the normal range, but I'd like to see you more in this optimum range. And so let's do some work to help that liver function properly.
Sure. And other symptoms you can often see with liver problems are itchiness. We call it pruritus, so itchiness of the skin, and then also nausea and vomiting, which those are not specific just to the liver, but and connected to the liver is the pancreas, and as part of the
Hmm.
detoxification system too. And if you have liver problem, I'm sorry, if you have pancreas problems, often your lipase blood test will be elevated.
Mm-hmm. Before we jump into some more organs that are involved in that elimination channel or detoxification, our world is full of toxins. I actually wrote a book years ago that was titled "A World Overwhelmed with Toxins and How to Deal with It." But what are the most common toxins that people should be aware of, and how are humans exposed to them?
Yeah, so I think, Scott, what really concerns me is we're being exposed to new toxins and much higher
Mm-hmm.
amount, not just amount, but the sheer number of these man-made, what I call petrochemicals, meaning they're from petroleum or gasoline. Yes, yes, of course, some of our ancestors were around petroleum, but not to the degree that we are. I mean, everything
Right.
these days is plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the sad thing is, you know, it's not just the plastic itself that's toxic, it's these plasticizers, things that are added, whether it's phthalates or other chemicals. Here's the bottom line: there is no safe plastic. And if you look at so-called modern life, there's plastic everywhere. Our most often our clothes are plastic, our computers can be plastic. The if you look, most people spend the average American spends 90% of their time indoors. And indoors, even though you may live in a place that looks great, unfortunately, they may be using petrochemicals. So you may be breathing in all the time these petrochemicals, these forever chemicals, these heavy metals, and other toxins. So it's not that our ancestors never were exposed to toxins. And you study the ancient Romans, and they got lead toxicity. They were
Mm-hmm.
using lead pipes, and unfortunately, you see the results. You see lead toxicity. So that was a couple thousand years ago. My point is, we've gone beyond heavy metals. Now we're at a whole new generation, and we don't know the long term effects. I can tell you that, unfortunately, in the United States, it these chemicals have been assumed to be safe unless proven
Yeah.
otherwise. And I don't
Yeah.
think that was a wise decision. And I think we're paying for this. And to give you an example, there are chemicals like PCBs that were outlawed in the 1970s. So that was a long time ago. But the levels in our environment, they're still very high, because once they enter the biologic system, these are fatty chemicals that can have half-lives of 10, 20, 30 years. And if your diet is primarily from animal products, whether land or sea, you're getting a 10 times higher dose. You are what you eat. So if you're eating at the top of the food chain, it's not just the exposure that we're having, it's anything that we're putting in our bodies. We're the next generation, um, to feel it. So that's why I recommend people, as much as I can, eat plants, eat from the bottom of the food chain to minimize their exposure to these toxins.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned the indoor air quality, because a lot of people, when they think of toxins, they think of these industrial centers that just have pollution and things. And that certainly is a source of exposure. But the modern indoor air quality is often worse than the outdoor air quality in certain places. So you've got to get outdoors. You have to let some air through and have some ventilation in your internal home environment.
Right. And let me just be clear on the scale here. So, if you're exposed to very high levels of these chemicals, if you're around burning chemicals, 24/7, huge doses, like, this
Yep.
is not going to be, something we're going to worry about in, you know, 3 or 4 decades. Like, this could be in the next 10 years. But the
Mm-hmm.
but the flip side is, if you're spending 90% of your time in an environment that has even moderate levels of these plastics that are in the floors and the walls and the furniture and everything else, it behooves you to do things to lower it, whether it's, use natural products, not the petroleum. I mean, guess what? Petroleum is natural, but the way we're overexposed to it is certainly not. So you want to do everything you can to minimize your exposure. And often people will be overwhelmed when I bring this up, and they're like, "Dr. Josh, there's no way. Where am I supposed to start?" Right? It's like, how do I survive and not use plastic? And I would say, don't stress out about it. Just gradually, every decision you make, think about it and maybe spend, every week or every month, add something else you're doing. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to buy clothes that are made of plastics because I don't want to be exposed to these forever chemicals that are endocrine disruptors that will, among other things, make it a lot harder for my body to remove toxins.
Right. You kind of touched on earlier that the kidney plays a role in detoxification and with those water soluble toxins. Can you explain a little bit more the role of the kidneys in detoxification and how they filter waste products from the bloodstream?
Yeah, no, the kidneys are an amazing system. Um, the they have like a counter current. Basically, they're designed to get water soluble toxins and substances out of the blood into the urine. So, but the key there is water soluble. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's very difficult for non-water soluble things to go through urine. Normally, they won't, and and the liver does its job. It will take toxins, fatty toxins, which are hard to get rid of, and convert some of those to water soluble, so that when
Mm-hmm.
they hit the kidneys, and you need a good amount of blood pressure to be doing the filtering, but there are their kidney cells. Part of it's called the glomerulus that looks like a ball of spaghetti, but it's like any other filter you may have seen. It's just happening on a microscopic level, where you've got pressure going through a surface with holes, and it's basically anything that's water soluble is going through it.
Mm-hmm. Another part of the detoxification system or our elimination channels involves the lymphatic system. So how does this lymphatic system support detoxification? And maybe what are some natural ways that you can get that lymphatic drainage going?
Yeah, so the lymphatics are very important, and basically they travel from head to toe, moving not just fatty substances i- related to the immune system, but also toxins. And we now know that the brain has a lymphatic system. When I went to med school in the 90s, we didn't, or late 80s, we didn't know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a discovery in the last 5 or 10 years. So first of all, humility that this is a super complicated system that we're only now figuring out.
Right.
So the lymphatics are, and the lymphatics, just like the blood system, the blood system goes down to capillaries. The lymphatics go down to the same size and very, very small. And by going very small, they can reach basically every part of the body to try to help remove toxins. And so some of the things you can do to ideally uh, have your lymphatics functioning. I like things like vibrating plates. That's one.
Okay.
Exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise is another great way. Uh, Another one is sauna. Sauna will get, not only open up the pores of your skin, but it will also get your lymphatics going. You can also do something, dry brushing, massage. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
different ways that you can get your lymphatics going. I would add to that list using what's called nitric oxide supplements.
Okay.
If every time you chew leafy greens, you produce what's called nitric oxide, which is a gas. It's one nitrogen and one oxygen atom stuck together, and that molecule, that gas, will open up not just blood vessels; it also open up your lymphatics. So this is a highly regulated, well designed system that We just need to use natural products, I think, to help open up the system.
Yeah, those are all great recommendations. And particularly, I think we need to be aware that the lymphatic system is a series of vessels that's throughout the body, just like your circulatory system. But the difference is it doesn't have a pump, it doesn't have the heart pumping the fluid. And so it has to be stimulated by something. And that can be done through that massage or exercise, through the manual stimulation, or obviously just allowing it to travel more easily because you're opening these vessels like you would the cardiovascular system.
Right. And I'll add something else that most people don't think about. This is one of the reasons why you don't want to have an elective surgery if you can avoid it, is because when surgeons cut through skin, they're cutting through the capillaries, the small blood vessels, and the lymphatics. And of course, the surgeon's going to fix the big blood vessels, but normally they're not going to fix the lymphatics. They're not going to put the lymphatics back together. So what I tell people is, if it's an elective procedure, try to avoid any large elective surgery, because what they're not telling you in the disclosures, by the way, we're going to be damaging your lymphatics and we're not going to be able to fix that for you.
Great advice. And I think the vast majority of people wouldn't have even thought of that. So I'm glad you brought it up.
No, and having done surgery, that's not something we were normally disclosing to our patients, unfortunately.
Obviously, lifestyle and environment have a major impact on our toxic load. What impact does the digestive system have on detoxification, and how can dietary choices support or hinder the body's ability to detoxify?
Yeah, I think we could talk an hour just on that topic, but in terms of highlights, I would highlight the fact, one of the reasons I'm a big fan of fasting is when you fast, you allow your gut to detoxify because you're not putting anything in it. You're letting the system there relax, and the bacteria that are growing in your gut they get a chance to a reset, right? Because if you're not feeding the microbiome in your gut, you get a chance to reset. And our ancestors, we're the descendants of ancestors who by necessity had to fast occasionally because food was not available 24/7. For those reasons, I'm a big fan of fasting. Another part I would say with detoxification of the gut is fiber. When you do eat, I think we're designed to have at least 100 grams of fiber a day. And where do you get fiber from? You get it from fruits, vegetables, whole grain. There's no fiber in meat or milk or cheese or those things. And the average American gets maybe between 15 and 30 grams of fiber a day, when we're designed to get over 100 grams of fiber a day. So that would be my suggestion, is try to, every meal, eat more fiber, because it's the fiber that will feed the microbiome and then in turn will help remove toxins. Because I mentioned the liver is a major detoxification organ, but it turns out that there are what I would say good bacteria in your gut that can also remove toxins. And one term we've called that is postbiotics, for example.
Yeah, postbiotics are something that, again, I think we're just starting to learn about the role they have in not just gut health, but overall human health. I mean, you have butyrate and urolithin that are now being studied extensively, and you're finding great results from having more of those byproducts in your body.
100%.
People, we mentioned earlier, people often overlook the skin as a way for the body to eliminate toxins. In my experience, the body tries to push toxins out the other elimination channels first, but when it's unsuccessful, it will use the skin. And so how does sweating help the body eliminate toxins through the skin? And what are some effective methods for promoting sweating as part of a detoxification protocol?
Yeah, so sweating's, I think it's an important one. I mean, so when you sweat, not only is the body lowering the temperature, which is one reason we sweat, it's also within the sweat itself, you're getting, mainly water soluble, but some fat soluble toxins to leave your body. And obviously you can do things like exercise and sauna, exposure to heat, infrared, all those things can help with promoting sweating. So yeah, we think you may think the sweating is just to lower your body temperature. No, it's also it's a design mechanism in order to push some of those toxins out. And it's because the skin is such a large organ. You don't, even though it may not be a lot in each space, but if you look at the skin in general, it's amazing. It's one of the key detoxifiers, no question.
And the interesting thing is that in Western culture, we tend to use antiperspirants and try and stop that sweating in some cases. And so we're really not only are those not good products because of some of the aluminum they carry and the risks associated with that, but also we're maybe reducing our body's ability to detoxify when we use those kind of products.
100%. We're basically throwing a wrench into a natural process that's there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I get it that people want to smell good, but there are other ways to smell good, whether it's essential oils or whatever. There are other things that you can do, but sweating is normal, and you don't normally want to stop that.
Right. And I think maybe we're going to have to push for people becoming just more accustomed to or with sweaty armpits, right? And seeing that sweat stain on people's shirts rather than using antiperspirants.
Right. But I've also found that if you're eating more plants,
mm-hmm.
like what's a good example? Like I'm blanking on it, but there's certain plants where you eat it, and that's what your sweat smells like. If you're eating more plants, you're not going to smell as bad. So, yeah, like specifically fenugreek.
Okay.
If you eat fenugreek or fenugreek sprouts, that to me that's a natural deodorant. You're going to smell like fenugreek, which isn't that bad.
Yeah.
And you're not going to. And fenugreek has all these antioxidants and fiber and all these good things. Whereas, as you mentioned, if you're putting aluminum on your armpits and elsewhere, I mean, we know that aluminum, the people who do this, they're at higher risk of getting cancer.
Right.
And, we found aluminum in the amyloid plaques in Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want extra aluminum exposure. Not good.
Right. So can you discuss the role of hydration in detoxification and how staying properly hydrated supports the body's natural detoxification processes?
Yeah, so we are designed to use water, drink water. I I would also caution people that you can definitely overdo it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
all the time in the emergency room, I see people who, like, well, my doctor said I'm supposed to drink a gallon a day, and which is fine if you're active and if you're running around and you're in the heat. Yeah, a gallon sounds good. But if you're just sitting looking at a screen all day and you hear, oh, I need to drink water or fluid, the point is you can definitely overdo it. The trick is you want to make sure that your urine is relatively clear. If urine's
Mm-hmm.
relatively clear, you're drinking enough water. You don't need more. The other thing is if you're eating mainly plants, whole plants, there's water in whole plants. When I eat a watermelon, I don't need to worry about drinking water because there's plenty of water in the watermelon itself.
Yeah, and we're coming up to that time of year where those are going to start becoming ripe and ready for us. So perfect time to mention a watermelon.
Oh yeah.
What is the proper order to detox the body, or what does that process look like?
Yeah, so to my mind, it's the key thing to do is to remove toxins first before let's say you wanted to kill parasites
Mm-hmm.
or kill other infections, whether it's viruses, bacteria. You want to do detoxification first because there's a substance in the body, throughout the body, called biofilm, biologic film, that is formed by bacteria and parasites to protect those from invaders. The example I use, if you ever see a pond out there that's has green scum, scum on it. I'm not saying that people are like that, but I am saying that just like bacteria like to grow on the surface of water, bacteria like to grow in our mouth and in our blood and brain and liver and everywhere. And for those reasons, before you start killing, destroying the biofilm, you want to remove toxins, because within the biofilm, we just talked about lots of different types of toxins, whether it's heavy metals or forever chemicals or phthalates or other plastics. All those things get concentrated in the biofilm. If you bust up the biofilm all at once, you're going to release like a year or 10 years worth of toxins all at once. So before you do anything like that, you want to remove toxins. And how do you do it? Well, we've talked about some of the ways. One way we haven't talked about that I'm a fan with patients who have chronic illnesses are colonics. Is basically flushing them out from below using water.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I can remember in my naturopathic training that we were taught that the bowel was the first thing that you should work on for detoxification, because you have to have that being able to clear and have regular bowel movements, because if you are not, then that you have a high likelihood that anything that you detoxify above the bowel is just going to be relocated to that GI tract, and you're going to have continual problems there. So colonics would be a good way, and anything else that can help you move your bowels regularly. There's people in Western culture that only have one bowel movement a week, and it's crazy that they can do that. You've got to have far more bowel movements than that if you want to be a healthy individual.
100%. And if you're eating more whole fruits and whole vegetables and whole grains, you're going to have more fiber, and fiber in turn is going to cause elimination more than once a week. But I mean, let's just be clear that the transition, if you make changes, there's going to be a transition, and you may have some gas and bloating and other problems as your microbiome, the bugs in your gut, adjust to this change. And that doesn't mean you're allergic to fiber. It just means that you're resetting your system, similar to when you fast, when you put nothing in your mouth besides water for a day or longer, hopefully under medical supervision, if it's more than a few days, that you're doing a reset. And it's the key is to get to the other side after the reset.
What are your favorite herbs or supplements to aid detoxification, and what should people consider when they're going to incorporate them into their routine?
Yeah, there's so many good options. Wow. Some of my favorites are things like frankincense, and what else do I like? Rosemary. I like, but rosemary can also kill parasites. So I probably wouldn't start with that one. But it's hard just to, there's so many good choices. Yeah, I mentioned fenugreek. Fenugreek's a good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, there really is just such a huge variety of things that you could look at to help the body with its detoxification process. When you're looking at binders, you could look at fulvic and humic acid and shilajit, and you could also, to some degree, look at chlorella and cilantro when they're used together. And then there are other herbs that are used to help stimulate the bowels, such as senna and things like that. So there are so many different ways that you can detoxify. But I am glad that you mentioned that we don't want to do it too fast, and we don't want to blow up these biofilms, because that's when we start to see these Herx reactions that people get, and they're gonna say, is this even worth it? I feel miserable when I'm doing this.
But let's be upfront, Scott. I think if someone's dealing with a chronic illness, normally they're going to have to get worse before they get better. I mean,
agree.
I wish there was a way around it, but that's been my experience, is that it's actually work to do. that you're not going to find a magic pill or a magic shot that magically is going to get rid of, decades of accumulated toxins. That's just not how the system works. The other thing, I'm a fan of binders,
Hmm.
but I would say that you don't want to take binders at the same time as other supplements. So one way to do that is just to take it right before you go to sleep and not take
Yep.
any of their supplements right before you go to sleep. Now, if you need supplements to get to sleep, that's a whole other issue. But
Hmm.
that's why work with someone that understands this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Well, I think this conversation's been enlightening. It's certainly brought up I think, some unique things that maybe people didn't know about detoxification previously, and hopefully given people some strategies and tips that they can implement and start to help their body with this detoxification process. It's absolutely needed in today's world. We have so many toxins that we're dealing with, and most of us are carrying around a much higher toxic load or toxic burden than we probably would even know and understand. So I really appreciate you taking time to share your expertise and how we can do better to help the body with its detoxification and elimination of toxics products.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. This was a lot of fun, and I love what you're doing, spreading the word to as many people as possible that the toxins are real and they're actually things you can do to get rid of them.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you for investing your precious time with us today. I trust you've uncovered valuable insights to elevate your health and enhance your quality of life. If you're hungry for more evidence-based wisdom to transform your well-being, I invite you to check out my 20-plus books, all waiting to be explored on my website, authorscott.com. Don't miss out on the chance to supercharge your knowledge. Please share, like, and subscribe to be part of the movement revolutionizing lives. In a world drowning in noise and endless information, your share can be the beacon that guides others to a better life. Together, let's make a difference by amplifying the life-changing knowledge you've gained today. Until next time, here's to your journey to boundless health and unbridled happiness.
Say